All right. Quick question. Have you ever looked at your credit card statement and thought, wait, I just paid this? Because you're doing the responsible thing, you're making the payment every single month, sometimes even more than the minimum. And somehow the balance just sits there like it's glued in place. Now, here's the part most people don't realize. Tio, credit card debt isn't just taking a long time. It's designed to feel impossible to escape. That stuck feeling, that frustration, it's not because you're bad with money or lazy or undisciplined. It's because the rules of the game are stacked in a way nobody ever explains to you. And once you see what's actually happening behind the scenes, how interest quietly rebuilds your balance, how minimum payments create the illusion of progress, how millions of people are trapped in the exact same loop, you won't be able to unsee it. Stick with me because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why doing everything right is the very thing keeping people in debt, and why the moment this clicks, credit card debt stops feeling confusing and starts feeling predictable. Let's start with something that feels familiar, because if this has ever happened to you, I want you to know right away, you're not crazy. You open your credit card app, you see the balance, you make the payment, and there's a weird little sense of relief that comes with it. You think, all right, I did what I was supposed to do. Maybe you even feel a bit responsible, a bit proud, like at least you're not ignoring it. And that feeling matters because the entire system is built around that moment. Credit cards are designed to reward consistency, not progress. The green check mark, the payment received notification, the thank you message, all of it reinforces the idea that if you just keep doing this, you must be moving forward. But here's where things quietly break down, and nobody ever tells you this part. Making a payment and getting out of debt are not the same thing. They feel like the same thing, but they're not. When you pay the minimum, or even just a little more than the minimum, what you're really doing is proving you're a good customer, not escaping the balance. The system doesn't measure success by how fast your debt disappears. It measures success by how reliably you show up every month. And as long as you show up, everything looks normal on the surface. Your account stays open, your credit score doesn't crash, there are no angry phone calls, no emergencies. It feels stable. That's the trap, because stability creates the illusion of progress. Your balance might drop by a tiny amount, maybe $20, maybe $40, sometimes so little you barely notice it, but your brain fills in the gap and assumes the rest is happening behind the scenes. You tell yourself, okay, it's slow, but it's moving. Except most of the time, it's not really moving at all. It's just reshuffling. Interest pulls it up, your payment nudges it down, and you're stuck in this invisible tug of war that cancels itself out month after month. And the reason this hits so many people isn't because they're careless. It's because they're doing exactly what they were told responsible people do. Pay on time, don't miss payments, keep the account in good standing. Nobody explains that the minimum payment isn't there to help you finish. It's there to help you continue. Continue paying, continue carrying the balance, continue generating interest quietly in the background. So when someone says, I've been paying this card for years, what they're really saying is, I've been stuck in a system that rewards me for staying stuck. And I didn't know that's what was happening. And once you see that, once you realize this isn't about effort or discipline, something clicks. You stop blaming yourself for not making a dent. You stop wondering why it feels so hard even though you're doing everything right. Because the real problem isn't that you haven't been paying, it's that the system made paying feel like progress, when in reality, progress is something entirely different. All right, now let's zoom in on the part that really does the damage, the minimum payment, because this is where everything starts to make sense. When you look at your statement and it says something like minimum payment due $147, that number feels official, almost like a recommendation, like someone smarter than you already did the math and landed on what makes sense. But the truth is that number has almost nothing to do with helping you get out of debt. It's calculated to do one job really well: keep you paying as long as possible without quitting. Here's how it actually works, in plain English. Most credit cards set the minimum payment somewhere between 1 and 3% of your balance. That's it. So if you owe $5,000, your minimum might be around $150. That sounds reasonable. It sounds manageable. And that's not an accident. If it were $400 or $500, a lot of people would panic and stop paying altogether. The minimum is carefully chosen so you can pay it without actually getting anywhere. Now let's talk about where that money goes, because this is the part that nobody breaks down clearly. Before your payment even touches your balance, the credit card company takes interest off the top. Think of interest like rent on your debt. You don't get to skip it, and it doesn't care how responsible you've been. So if your card has a 20-something% interest rate, which is extremely common, a big chunk of your monthly payment disappears immediately. On that same $5,000 balance, roughly $90 to $100 of that $150 payment could be interest alone. That means after doing the right thing, only about $50 or $60 yet to actually reduces what you owe. And here's the part that really messes with people's heads. You make the payment, you see the balance go down a little, and you think, okay, progress. But then the next month rolls around, and the balance is almost right back where it started. Not because you spent more, not because you messed up, but because interest quietly rebuilt the balance while you weren't looking. So every month becomes this exhausting cycle of paying mostly interest just to earn the right to keep your debt. This is why people can pay for years and still feel like they're standing still. The minimum payment is not a payoff plan, it's a permission slip. It gives you permission to carry the balance another month, another year, sometimes another decade. In fact, studies show that if you only pay the minimum on a typical credit card, it can take 15, 20, even 30 years to fully pay it off. And by the time you do, you may have paid double or triple what you originally borrowed, all while thinking you were being responsible the entire time. And that's the genius of it, honestly. The system never tells you not to pay it off. It just never encourages you to do it quickly. As long as the balance survives, interest keeps flowing. And as long as the payment feels small and manageable, most people never question the math behind it. They just keep paying and paying and paying. Once you truly understand that minimum payments are designed to keep you in the game, not help you win, a lot of confusion suddenly disappears. The frustration makes sense. The slow progress makes sense. And more importantly, you realize the problem was never that you weren't trying. It's that the rules were never meant to work in your favor. Now, this is the part that really messes with people because even after you understand minimum payments, there's still this one lingering question. Okay, but why does my balance feel like it never actually goes down? And this is where the illusion fully reveals itself, because what's happening isn't obvious at all unless someone walks you through it slowly. The key thing most people don't realize is that interest doesn't wait for your payment. It doesn't show up once a month like a bill you can plan around. It's being added constantly, quietly in the background. Every single day you carry a balance, interest is creeping in and attaching itself to that number. So while you're going about your life, not spending, doing your best, the balance is subtly rebuilding itself before you ever get a chance to push it down again. And this is why your payments feel like they evaporate. You make a payment today, your balance drops a bit, and it feels good, even if it's just a small win. But then over the next few weeks, interest starts stacking back on. Not all at once, not in a way you can see day by day, but little by little. So by the time your next statement arrives, most of the ground you thought you gained has already been taken back. It feels like you're moving forward until you zoom out and realize you're walking in place. A really simple way to picture this is like trying to drain a bathtub while the faucet is still on. Every month your payment pulls some water out, but the faucet, which is the interest, never shuts off. And if you're only draining the tub just barely faster than the water is coming in, the water level doesn't noticeably drop. You're doing work, you're putting in effort, but the results never match the energy you're spending. That's exactly how credit card interest works on your balance. This is also why people swear their balance was lower a year ago, even though they've been paying consistently. It's not just memory playing tricks on them. A slight change in interest rate A missed opportunity to pay extra 1 month, or even just time passing, can undo weeks of progress. So the debt starts to feel sticky. Like no matter how often you swipe, pay, or avoid spending, the number refuses to meaningfully shrink. And here's the most frustrating part. None of this shows up clearly on your statement. You don't get a big warning that says, hey, most of this payment didn't really help. You just see a balance, a minimum due, and a due date. So your brain fills in the blanks and assumes the system is fair, just slow. But it's not slow by accident. It's slow by design. Once you understand this, that feeling of what am I doing wrong starts to disappear. Because you weren't failing. You were fighting a math problem that resets itself every month. And the moment you realize interest is secretly working against you between payments, it finally makes sense why the balance feels frozen, even though you've been doing everything you were told to do. Here's the crazy part that almost nobody tells you. This isn't just your story. What you're going through with your credit cards is basically the new normal in the US. And that's actually terrifying when you look at the numbers. Right now, the average American is carrying around $6,000 to $7,000 in credit card debt personally. And the average household balance is sitting around $11,000 on their cards. That's not a few bad decisions. That's people doing life. Groceries, gas, kids, emergencies, rent that's too high, and then trying to plug the hole with a piece of plastic. And when you zoom all the way out, it gets even bigger. Across the whole country, total credit card debt has climbed past $1.2 trillion. Trillion with a T. That means millions and millions of people are in the same loop. Swipe, pay, repeat. It's not like there are a handful of people who just don't know how to manage money. This is the average person, the middle-class family, the young professional starting out, the parents in their 40s juggling kids and bills, all quietly carrying balances month after month. So if you've ever looked at your statement and thought, man, I must be really bad with money, I want you to pause and rethink that. Because if almost everyone is in a similar spot, it's not a personal flaw. It's a it's a pattern. And patterns usually mean the system is set up in a way that nudges people in the same direction. The truth is, most people have no idea how deep they are because the debt doesn't show up as one big scary number on a billboard. It's split across a few cards, a store card here, a rewards card there, maybe a travel card you open for points. Individually, each balance feels not that bad, but when you add it all up, it's thousands and thousands of dollars quietly charging high interest every single month. And that's another thing that keeps people in deeper than they realize. The interest rates themselves. The average credit card interest rate right now is over 22% on accounts that carry a balance. That's insanely high compared to almost any other type of debt. So when someone says, yeah, I've got about 10 grand on my cards, but I'm making payments, what that really means is they're playing a game where the cost to stay in the game is one of the highest in the entire financial system. A lot of people don't even register that number. They just see the minimum payment and the due date and assume, okay, this is how it works. There are even studies that run the math on this for the average household. For example, take a typical revolving balance of around $10,000 or $11,000. If you only make the minimum payments, you can end up paying 2 to 3 times that amount by the time you are done once all the interest is baked in. So the person who thinks, I have about $10,000 of debt, might actually be on the hook for nearly $30,000 over many years if nothing changes. They're not just in a bit of debt, they're in a long-term contract with interest. And here's where I really wanted to hype you up a bit. The fact that you're watching this and even thinking about your debt already puts you ahead of most people. A lot of folks are so stressed and overwhelmed that they don't even want to look at the numbers. They avoid their statements. They swipe and pray, and they kind of live in this fog where they know it's bad, but they don't want to know how bad. You're doing the opposite. You're pulling the curtain back. Once you actually see, okay, I'm not weird. This is literally what the average person is dealing with, and here's how the math is trapping us. You go from being a passive player in the system to someone who understands the game that's being played on them. So no, you're not the only one. You're not uniquely bad with money. In fact, if you feel like you're drowning while doing everything right, paying on time, making at least the minimums, trying not to overspend, you're basically living the default credit card experience in 2025. The only difference now is that you're starting to see it for what it really is. And once you see how deep the average person is and how normal your situation actually is, it becomes a lot easier to stop beating yourself up and start asking the real question. Okay, if this is the trap almost everyone is in, what does it actually take to get out? All right, now let's tie everything together because this is the part that changes how you see credit card debt forever. When people say it's so hard to get out of credit card debt, it sounds vague, like bad luck or bad timing or just life being expensive. But the real reason it's hard to escape is much more specific. You're not racing against your balance, you're racing against time. And time, when interest is involved, is not on your side. Think about it this way. The moment you carry a balance, interest starts the clock. Every day that clock is ticking, adding costs just for existing. So when you make a payment that's just enough to cover interest and a tiny bit of principal, you're not actually reversing the damage. You're just slowing it down slightly. It's like pushing a heavy object uphill while someone else keeps nudging it back down. You might feel strong for pushing, but unless you push hard enough, gravity wins every time. This is why so many people try really hard for years and still don't break free. They're focused on the payment, not the speed. Paying something feels productive, but escaping debt only happens when your payments consistently outpace how fast interest is growing the balance. And that's the key difference nobody explains. Minimum payments don't aim to beat interest. They aim to coexist with it. As long as your balance survives, interest survives. And as long as interest survives, the system keeps working exactly as designed. What makes this even trickier is that credit cards don't frame the problem this way. They don't say, hey, the real enemy here is time. They just give you a due date and a number and let you assume the rest. So people spend years thinking the solution is discipline, budgeting harder, skipping lattes, or feeling guilty every time they swipe. But all of that misses the core issue. You can be disciplined forever, but if your payments aren't structured to outpace interest, the finish line stays way farther away than it looks. And here's where the mental shift happens, the one that actually gives people hope. Credit card debt isn't confusing, mysterious, or random. It's incredibly predictable. Once you understand that interest grows automatically and payments have to overpower it, the fog clears. You stop asking, why is this taking so long? And start seeing exactly why the balance behaves the way it does. The anxiety softens because uncertainty is what stresses people out the most. Knowing what's happening, even if you don't change anything yet, already puts you in a stronger position. I want you to really hear this part. Getting out of credit card debt is not about being perfect. It's not about never making a mistake again. It's about understanding the one lever that actually matters. Paying faster than interest can rebuild what you owe. Everything else is noise. Once that clicks, you stop playing defense and start seeing the path forward clearly. And that's why this entire video matters. Not to shame you, not to scare you, not to preach some extreme lifestyle, but to show you that if credit card debt has felt impossible, overwhelming, or never ending, it's not because you failed. It's because no one ever explained the rules of the game. And once you understand the rules, debt stops feeling like a personal flaw and starts feeling like a math problem you can finally see clearly. All right, if this video helped even a little bit, if something finally clicked or you caught yourself thinking, wow, that explains a lot, do me a quick favor and hit the like button because it tells the algorithm this is worth showing to more people who feel just as stuck. And if you want more videos that break down money stuff in a simple, no judgment, real life way, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. I post content like this regularly to help you understand the rules of the money game most people were never taught, and the next video built directly on what we talked about today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for watching until the end, and I'll see you in the next one.